Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Chris Legaspi. Thank you for joining me today. And what I want to do is talk about how we can render some form and suggest anatomy at the same time using contour design, basic shape design, designing the light. And for this example, I want to use a more of a masculine design approach, meaning we're going to take this model here and see if we can make it a bit more of a masculine feeling design and theme. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you.
And before we begin, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my free Insiders Club. Insiders Club members get first access to these weekly live streams, and you also get access to other live events, and you get discounts on courses and programs, along with access to free lessons and other free content available only to subscribers. So all you have to do is go to www.drawwithchris.com, and there you can enter your email and you'll be good to go.
Let's take a look and analyze the reference here and see what we can come up with, see what clues and ideas we can have to make a more of a masculine design drawing that also communicates all of the anatomy and form that we need. So what is masculine design? Masculine design ideas are straights, corners, short lines, small details and shapes bunched together, kind of busyness, chaos. So these are more masculine, aggressive, complex ideas, right? Versus a feminine idea would be long, curve, fluid. You see the difference? See the difference? So right away in our marks, we know we're going to be in this range. Short, choppy, small, bunchy, straights and corners. And obviously the natural progression is boxes. Boxes, rectangles, pyramids, even cones, points, angles, corners, boxes, corner, 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 corner. Corners are masculine ideas. Ends are masculine ideas. So you take a form and you take a cylinder, for example, and you cut it. You get an end. That's a masculine idea. A cut, a corner. Those are some things we have to work with. Also, in terms of value, also high contrast and something quite dark. So this is graphite. It's not super dark, but dark is a more masculine, more aggressive idea versus something light, and then a contrast between the two. So in terms of value, we have that. In terms of form, we have boxy. In terms of marks, we have straights and corners. So what do we have here? We have natural focusing on the torso, so we know we have a natural curve here. We can see that. The things that we need form-wise, of course, we know we need the rib cage, and there it is. It's quite clear. We know we need the pelvis. There's the iliac crest, so we know it's kind of like this-ish, something like that. It's kind of boxy. So we know we have that. Form-wise, basic anatomy-wise, we know we have the shoulder girdle. We know we have breast tissue that we need. We can clearly see rib detail and serratus muscle. So that's more along the rib cage, flowing like that. So we can play with that. We can clearly see pinching in the abdomen. That's nice. We can play that up. We can clearly see the indication of the iliac crest, part of the thing. We see the pinch in the hips. We see the glutes. She's sitting, so there's this cool compression and the bulging that happens there. So we can play with that. We can downplay that. We can play up the boxiness. We see the peak of the trochanter. We see the core shadow. It's quite soft, so we can use the core shadow as the shadow shape and the treatment as a device. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then we see the thigh, we see some quadriceps and, not quadriceps. Gosh, I forgot what these are called. Iliotibial thingy right there. Quadriceps are up here. So this is more iliotibial, the side of your leg. We're not going to get to the leg, but up at the arm, I noticed something nice here. There's a straight here. There's a straight here, so that's quite straight. So that's already masculine. So, and because this model is pretty lean, her shoulder girdle is quite lean, so we can see a bit of bony action here, and we see she has low body fat, so we can see some of her musculature here. We can see a hard core shadow, so this is already, by design, it's quite boxy. The shoulder is quite boxy by design, and because this model is lean and has low body fat, it's making it even more boxy, because bony is boxy, right? Bony is a masculine idea. Bone. Bone. Hard muscle. I don't know if you can read that, but bone and hard muscle are masculine ideas. So we want to take advantage of that here. Obviously, we have the scapula here. That's an important form. Oops, it's more like this. Excuse me. Whoops. So that's an important form. So I'm going to treat it more boxy. And even the curve, right? We have a beautiful curve. I'm going to treat the curve like this. Instead of like this, instead of drawing our curve like this, right? Like it is, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go, uh, uh. You see the difference? I'm not, that's exaggerated, but you see it's basically little corners. Corner, 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 corner. And that's a conscious choice. Of course, I want to keep the integrity of the curve so that we can have a beautiful pinchy section here, compression section. But design-wise, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to use, remember, we all know curve is feminine. So to make this beautiful long curve more masculine, I'm going to chop it up, break it up, as much as I can. So that's basically the idea, my friends. Now what I'm going to do is do a little demonstration. We'll see how far we can get. All right, so we got our little drawing here. We're just going to focus on the torso. So I'm going to try to work through some ideas. And already you can see some of the things that I talked about. So remember the beautiful long stretch, the beautiful long C curve, but notice what I did here. I said, okay, there's an opportunity for me to add a corner right there, boom. So then I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to kind of go a little bit straight, a little bit straight, a little bit straight. And then there's an opportunity here for me to go straight again as the hip transitions into, as the abdomen transitions into the hip. Then I'm going to consciously make this a bit boxy, boom. And then to contrast, I'm going to bulge this out, boom, to show the bulging of the fat of the glutes as it's touching a surface. And then I'm going to go like this because that is beautiful contrast and more straight, more corner, more masculine. Look how pretty that is. So you see already, right? This does two things. It suggests anatomy and form at the same time and material. So material, which is human fatty soft tissue. Form, which is the boxy hip. All at the same time. And anatomy, some fat tissue. This core shadow, which we'll get to, will describe the trochanter, the hip box, trochanter, all that good stuff. So it's just fantastic. So you see right away, already this little design is doing a lot for us. That's what we want. That's what design does. It does a lot with little. And we're not going to draw the thigh, but I just want to add this little bump right there. That little bit of more. See, just that little description. Just that little description tells us, okay, you see how this is a line, guys. If I take this away, sorry, this makes me so happy. I have to stop here. Look how cool this area looks. Look how cool this area looks. You see, it's just basically one long line with one long designed line can communicate so many things. Communicate gesture of a pose, abdomen. You communicate relationship of the abdomen to the hip bone, relationship of the abdomen to the hip bone to the gluteus maximus muscle, fat, and tissue of the hips and butt. Boom. To a weight. This is weight. This is weight, describing weight. That's how we do it, with a tiny line. And then weight, form, mass, gravity, and material. So you're like, okay, this is probably a hard, bony thing. Something hard. It's a hard form. And then it gets a little bit softer. Like, oh, okay, this must be a softer part of the form, which it is. This is muscle and fat. So this is bone, a very thick and heavy bone, compressed against a piece of wood, a chair, a thing, a box, and then fat, which is floating in the air, and then down transitions. You see just how one line can communicate so much with cool design. So anyway, let's keep going. All right, so we made a more masculine design of the curve, the stretch, more masculine design of the hip, which is kind of already masculine. Now, what I'd like to do is do a little bit of the inverse, or at least counterbalance. Well, we got the straight of the arm. That's a little too straight, but I'm going to keep it. I like it. I'm going to keep it. I like it. It's a little too straight, but I'm going to keep it. The breast. So instead of a beautiful curve of the breast right here, instead of a beautiful curve like that, I'm going to go, you see? You see what I did? Straight, 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 straight. So I took a curve and I straightened it, basically. I made it more masculine. And then I'm going to take this point, do that, and then do the same thing at the bottom. But I'm going to go curve and then straight, curve and then straight. And then this is probably sternum, bone, ab muscle. This is very, very bony here. I'm going to exaggerate. She doesn't have this extra belly pinch. I'm going to add it because I can. Why not? It looks cool, in my opinion. It looks more pinchy. I'm going to exaggerate this because what I want is a bunch of pinchies. I want this area to be super pinchy because remember the small details. Remember, small details bunched together are more of a masculine idea. Small bunchy things. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to make this more masculine by bunching up stuff here. So I'm already thinking ahead. The scapula is already sharp and masculine looking already. I don't need to do much to it. Right here, we can see the head of the thing, humerus bone, I believe it is. That's the head of the humerus right here. So I can exaggerate that. And this is, I believe, is right here. This little bit of halftone here, or light halftone, is the deltoid muscle. So this is the deltoid muscle. So this is fat right here, fat on the back of the arms. We know women, females, tend to hold more fat in the back of their arms relative to men. So we kind of maintain that to still make it feel like a woman, like a feminine model, a female model. The bone here, so this is a bone right here. This is a cool bone, which is the thing, the spine of the scapula. It's right here. So we can play with that. There's lots of cool stuff to play with here. It's a nice reference. And then, so I'm just going to leave that area. Let's drop this cast shadow in. Of course, this cast shadow has a beautiful curve. And I think I will keep the curve right here. So the breast feels curvy. Then watch this. You see, I'm going to do an aggressive straight and then curve and then a little subtle straight. You see? That's design. That's design. It's not showing form, so I may change that. In fact, I'm going to change it now. I don't like the form read, and I already dug in with a hard pencil line, so that sucks. So I'm going to change that because the form is, I want more form and less design. So you see already that, boom, that looks more formy. That's pretty cool. What I could do is put a corner there, make this more corner, but that looks pretty cool actually. So we got a lot to play with. We got a lot to play with. This is great. A lot to play with here. So much to play with, so many directions to go. I think I'm going to switch to black. Hopefully you can see it better. All right, so guys, let's get this rib cage to read. Form read number 1 is rib cage. Let's get this rib cage to read and organize all this beautiful detail. Actually, let me do that in pencil first. So we know the rib cage is like this. We know the rib cage is a curve. It's an egg right now. It's an egg in this view. So we know we need egg, 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 egg. And then we also need shoulder girdle, shoulder girdle, shoulder girdle, which is kind of like a lampshade. So we need egg, we need lampshade, okay? You see that? You see that? Egg, lampshade, egg, lampshade, egg, lampshade. See that? It's cone. It's a cone, basically, okay? So we need that. Let's do that. How do we do that? Well, let's get the top of the egg here. So this reference is absolutely gorgeous. So shout out to Model Pose reference site here. Life Model Books. Sorry, I forgot this website. But shout out to them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to exaggerate right there, that corner. But you notice I'm not drawing the whole rib detail I want to. I bet you're watching this, you're like, oh, Chris, I could render that for 5 hours. I bet you could. I bet you could. And you'd have a great time, but we're not going to do that. We're going to think. We're going to think. So I got to get the rib. Rib. Abdomen, abdomen, abdomen. Transition to the box of the hip. Okay. So let's get this rib. Let's get the inside contour. So let's see. So I got this part, which is probably sternum front opening of the rib. I believe they're called intercostal ribs. Little pinchy belly bulge thingy. So we got the thing, we got the crease, we got a beautiful core shadow. Got a beautiful core shadow right there. I'm going to design this core shadow. I don't 100% know what that is, but I'm assuming it's mostly bone and cartilage. So I believe these are called intercostal ribs. These ribs right here at the bottom, at the front. I believe these start to become the cartilage ribs, not the bone ribs. That's what we're looking at here. So it doesn't matter. I just need to organize them to do the egg, right? I need to show the egg and the corner. The corner is masculine, so this is the end of the thing. It's a corner. Right there, it's a corner, it's a corner, it's a corner. I just need to show the end of it. So that means it's a corner, it's a box, it's masculine. So that means I can consciously make it a bit boxier, but I also have to relate it back up. So I'm going to go up again. I'm going to go inside pinch. I can add a wobble and nuance, as Steve would say, add a wobble. Because it's the pinch, you can do that. You can go crazy in the pinch. So this is a bit of a form read. So notice that form edge. This, my friends, is not insignificant. That little edge, I call this the master's edge. I call it the master's edge because I saw Mark Westermo do it, and he was the master of the Riley method. And it's basically this edge. There's two ways to make it. You can do it in one stroke. I'm going to try. Okay, I failed. But there it is right there. That's what I call the master's edge. So it's hard on one side and feathery on the other side, gradient feather. And what that does is it goes, oh, when a viewer sees that, they go, oh, okay, I know what that is. That's some kind of form. That's a soft corner. You see? Master's edge right there. So that's communicating two things, the bottom of a hard form, a corner, and form itself transitioning into light. So it's communicating roundish form, the end of a roundish form transitioning to light. So it's awesome. That's the game, my friends. So now we have this. So we have an end, two sides. We need a middle. So this is the middle. How do we design the middle? So this is where, full disclosure, probably me 15 years ago would have failed. I would have just seen, oh, I see beautiful detail. I'm going to mindlessly copy detail. 15 years ago, that was me. But we're not going to do that today. We're not going to do that today. You already know we're not going to do that today. What are we going to do today? We're going to design the egg. The egg, the egg, the egg, the egg, the egg in the position I want, which is this, right? This is the position I want. Egg, 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 egg. So these are basically cross sections. And I'm going to not use the point because I don't want to commit yet. So I'm going to use the side of my pencil as another technique, another conscious technique choice. So not being a blind copy machine. Think the whole time. And again, dropping down this side right here. And although it looks like I'm just copying detail, but I am not at all. I am thinking. I'm going, okay, how can I best make this mark to communicate the 3 or 4 things I need to communicate? We have a pretty hard core shadow right here. I believe that is the tendon of the lat right here, I believe. So that means because it's a tendon is harder tissue than muscle. So that means I have an opportunity to make a pretty hard, stiff core shadow edge if I want. I'm not going to take it yet. There's a cast shadow here. I believe this is the cast shadow of the rib cage form, casting a shadow over the mid-lower back. And then this is the core shadow of the sacrospinalis, your 2 erector muscles right here. These are long tubular muscles. Transitioning into the obliques as it transitions, the side abs, as it transitions into the top of the pelvis form. The iliac crest is right there. And now we're at some fat, and I believe we're at more fat, and that's on top of a gigantic muscle. There's 2 big muscles here, which are your gluteus medius. I believe it's the largest muscle in the entire body by weight. It's the biggest muscle in your body, your glute muscle. That's what all the girls go do at the gym. The gluteus maximus transitions into, so this is fat and rear hamstring muscles. I forgot what they're called, excuse me. The legs, I haven't reviewed the legs in a while. Of course, we have a thigh, but I have an opportunity to add pinchies. Check this out. I could add pinchies right here, and I think I'm going to try because this is the pinch. I want to make this really pinchy, because I want to make this also a bit more detailed, a bit more masculine. So I need to go even more pinchy in here. So watch this. Let me do this. Let me drop some game on you guys right here. You ready? So this is thigh muscle, vastus rectus, vastus medial. No, they're called quadriceps. Oh my God, I just looked this up. Sorry. Okay, there's a quadricep muscle. It's your top front thigh muscle that straightens your leg. Okay, it's right here. So that's muscle. I believe this is fat. So watch this. Watch this. That little tiny, That's a little tiny pinchy. You see that? Little tiny pinchy done with the side of my pencil. And then, watch this. I'm going to do it again. I see it. This is fat. This is fat tissue. And then, boom, a little tiny tail. That's enough. That's enough. So that's pretty bunchy. I did 1, 2, 3 little things. You see that? 1, 2, 3. So I basically made a pinchy where there was no pinchy. That's some game right there, my friends. And then, of course, if I were to draw the leg, I would have to do this, you see, because there's some beautiful stuff. So I need to relate all of this stuff back into the leg. So you don't just make it and go, oh, I saw Chris Legaspi invent things. I'm going to do that too. No. I mean, yes, you need to invent them, but you need to also, you can invent them, but they must also relate to the rest of the drawing. So this will go somewhere. This will go back. This is a crease that can lead over here. But anyway, so there you go. There you go. That was some game right there. And then cast shadow, core shadow. I can add pinchy there too if I want. A little bit. Cast shadow of the breast as we get into the actual breast tissue. So I'm going to switch to the side of my pencil now. It should be a lot sharper. So I want this, even though I want to do more of a masculine design, I want this to be soft, fatty breast tissue. This is mostly soft tissue, fat and breast tissue. It's not bone or muscle. It's quite soft. So it needs to read like that. Cast shadow of the tricep, the rear of the arm. This is tendon. This is tricep elongated, so long, stretchy muscle. Tricep is being stretched, we know. So this is the bone that we talked about here, I just mentioned. Little bit of bone indication right there. And then we can relate all of this stuff over here. We can create a corner, we can design it. Lots of cool stuff. I'm just going to scumble some tone there because that's a plane. I just want to communicate a plane. That's a form that has a plane. Let me erase some of my construction line. And this is a form that has planes. The back plane, down plane, whatever. This is the back plane of the scapula. The down plane of the scapula as it turns downwards. And it's also casting a cast shadow. And to me, every cast shadow is a gift. It's a design gift. It's a tool I can use to design. So I'm not gonna commit to the cast shadow yet. I'm gonna think for a minute. This is some anatomy thing. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it doesn't matter. I'm gonna smooth this out a bit. Flatten this area. Look how cool that looks. That's very flat. That's very masculine. But it still reads as stretch and pinch. Look at that, so pretty. Now let's take this little nugget of detail. This is a cast shadow. It's an opportunity. So I can go down on this end. But on this end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten it out. So I'm going to try to draw it here. Try to draw it here. So what I did there. So we have a bone, right? We have scapula, right? Has a cast shadow, right? It's on top of a rib cage, right? So what I do was I do this. I go, okay, I need a cast shadow. And that points down into the form. So it relates this into the rest of the thing. But I need the corner of this. So this is a plane. This is a plane. And I need a corner of that. So I'm going to stop it. Boom. So you see? Boop, 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 boop. That's design, my friends. Boop, 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 boop. And then I'm going to take this tail and watch this. So this is the corner of a thing, but I want it to wrap a little bit more. So I'm going to design it a little bit more wrappy. I'm going to make it go like this. And then it'll relate, which it naturally does, into the pectoralis, armpits, anatomy stuff. I'm not 100% sure what's going on there. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter anyway. And there we go, my friends. So there's a couple more nuances I need to add here, and then we'll call it a day. So what's happening here? There's a form here. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a form here. That's part of the shoulder girdle. So this is rib cage. The scapula we can see, but there's a bunch of muscles here. I believe this is latissimus. So this is the lat. I believe this is the bulge of the lat. So what we're seeing is this, the lampshade, the bulge of the lat. I believe. I could be wrong, but I'm almost 80% sure. But anyway, I'm going to design it like that because I know that's what's there. I know the lat, latissimus dorsi, that big wing muscle you have, is a part of the shoulder girdle. It's a part of shoulder movement. So I'm going to design it as if that's what it is. And it's basically a kind of this kind of ish form. Conical form. It's a cone kind of ish. But it transitions from a cone into the description of the rib cage egg. You see, boom. You see how I go boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. So I'm back to the egg. Egg, 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 egg. So I go from cone, conical, cone, cone to egg. Cone to egg. Cone to egg. Cone, relate to egg. You see? Cone, egg. That's important, my friends, because, like I said, if you're not trained, you're just going to sit here and go, oh, okay, well, I see some tone, I copy. Oh, I see, I don't know what it is, I don't care, I'm going to copy. Oh, I see halftone number 3, copy. Oh, I see a little thing, copy. You see? That's not what we want. That's untrained. You want to be a boss? You want some game? You want some deep game? You design. You see? So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And you know, this is colored pencil. It's semi-permanent, but we can still erase it. We can still design and refine this idea. But that's pretty much it, my friends. And then let's drop in the tone. So I'm pretty excited. This is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Let's drop in the tone here. Mass in the shadow mask, excuse me. Let's mask the shadow mask, and then we'll see where we can go from there. Hopefully YouTube won't strike me for this video. I hope not. Knock on wood. I might get a strike for this video. Check that out. That's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. That's impressive. I like that. So obviously there's a lot of construction-y stuff. It's you know, we need some work. But the design is there. The map is there. I know egg, 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 cone, 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 cone. This is donut, 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 donut. Kind of boxy and egg. You know, there's an egg here. There's an egg here. Small little egg. That's kind of a donut-y kind of thing here. There's a donut-looking thing, a torus, donut. This is tempting, but I'm going to stay disciplined, all of this stuff. I'm going to say, nope. I want to render and copy detail, but I'm saying, nope. Egg, 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 egg. And this is the underplane, the halftone underplane of the egg as it's turning down. The egg of the rib cage is turning down and away from the light, which is coming from above. So we got to treat it with a gradient. Egg, 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 egg gradient. There's also a gradient from left to right, right to left, excuse me, from the right contour inward. So you see already looking hot. That's looking quote unquote real. That's looking quote unquote formy. That's looking pretty dope. It's looking pretty dope. And you see, because we organized everything so well, I was able to just go whoosh, 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 whoosh. You see, and it looks pretty dope. It's like 80% done. That's pretty dope. We do the same thing here. Watch it. So this looks complex and like, oh my God, what's happening there? Do I need to study anatomy, Chris? Yes, it helps. But what is the form? This is basically The shoulder is kind of like this. It's kind of a boxy thingy like that. Kind of like that. It's basically what we're trying to do. So basically what I'm saying, this is a plane. This is sort of the side plane of a box. So just subtly suggest the box with enough tone to make it feel like a box, but not too hard of an edge to make it feel wrong or weird, incorrect, not the right material, because that's also fat and tissue in there. So this is the underplane of the spine of the scapula as it transitions into the scapula and the muscles that sit on top of the scapula, so it gets a little bit softer. Those are muscles, but they're small muscles. Boom, 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 boom. So this is me understanding the planes of the scapula. So for sure, you got to hit the books on the scapula. It's super complex. You really can't draw it properly unless you hit the books. I unfortunately had many shoulder injuries, so it forced me to self-diagnose my shoulder injuries, which is how I learned most of my upper shoulder anatomy, was through athletics and suffering injuries. And this is egg and cone. So this is cone that sits on top of an egg that smoothly transitions into a kind of bony egg, the rib cage, which is transitioning into fatty tissue. So you see there's not a lot of action here. I don't use my point here. This is all kind of like fatty, quiet zone. Top plane of the egg, top plane of the egg, 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 egg. So this is a bit, the bottom of the cone, we emphasized earlier, the bottom of the cone of the shoulder girdle, so it's lat muscle. I'm not quite happy with how it's reading, but you see we can still erase, we can still refine. This edge will take more care than others because it's subtle. Subtleties takes more skill. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lock in these ribs and we'll call it a day on this demonstration here. We'll lock in these ribs right here, meaning commit a little bit more to them. And again, I'm not copying at all. What I'm doing is I'm designing these ribs, these rib details to communicate what I want to communicate, which is the rib cage as a whole, the rib cage form. I'm not drawing individual rib. I'm communicating the rib cage form. That's the game. That's the game. We don't copy, copy, copy. We think about what we want to say. What do you want to say? And I want to say eggy rib cage bony form thing. That's what I'm trying to say. And then boom, some accents. We can even do contour accents for more masculinity. Of course, we know a dark accent is much more masculine than a soft tonal thing. A hard cast shadow, looking nice. Oh, please, YouTube, don't strike me. But anyway, I think this is a good stopping point, my friends, here. So you see the rib cage looks fantastic. It's pretty well organized. It reads. Obviously, there's lots of nuances that we need to do. There's subtle value things we need to do. Like whatever that was. It's a little too much. It's too bright. But as a whole, I feel pretty good. Okay, I thought I would continue with the hips now. So the torso is reading well. The abdomen is the bridge between the hips and the ribs. So let's get the hips to work. So same thing, more of a box here. So this is kind of interesting. So this is a torus, right? It's a donut. And then as we get to the torus, it gets into the big bone of the pelvis, and then the big bone of the big bump of your trochanter, the head of your leg bone, and then it gets into fat and muscle and other tissue. So it's kind of a unique edge, but really the thing that we need is box, 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 box. Well, box that transitions into torus. So that feels pretty good. Okay, so that is pretty much the shadow mask that I have. What I need now is transition tones. So I'm thinking I'll do some of those in graphite. So I have a lot more control with the graphite there. Okay, so let's get this. So this is rib cage is egg sitting on top of the abdomen, which is a torus. So it's transitioning from an egg form into a donut form, a torus. Torus is a donut, fancy geometric term for donut. And this is the fold of the abdomen of the belly fat. So this is torus, donut. Then it transitions into the box of the hip, which we can't quite see, but it's there. But then it transitions up over the hip box and then back to the back side. So it's quite cool. And then this is all kind of transition-y halftones. So this is just a nice gradient here. A nice gradient, but I do see some anatomy that needs to be suggested, which is, I believe, we're looking at the ball. This is a ball of the trochanter and the ball of, gosh, I forgot what the side leg muscle is called. I forgot what it's called, but vastus medialis? No. Iliotibial, something like that. And there's a long thing here. It's right here. You can see it here. So it's not, that's the leg, not quite the hip. It's the mid leg. But it's there. I just want to include it. Put a little bit of tone there. And then as far as a nice halftone mask, this is great. I'll probably switch to graphite now to fine tune this. We have some beautiful detail and so much nuance, but what I'm going to do is, you know what? I'm going to ignore the nuance, meaning like what's happening here, all these ins and out, all these light halftones. Chris, what should I do? Do I do his halftones? Are they dark? What do I do, Chris? I'm confused. Well, what's the form? The form is donut that's sitting, is transitioning into a box. So as long as you can kind of see what the form should be doing, and I know this because anatomically I know what's happening here. So that's a good reason to know the books, to hit the books. So I know there's some kind of crease here. That's why I put a light tone there. That's the abdomen sitting on the actual hip box. And then that little thing, that's the iliac crest that's transitioning into the ball of the trochanter. So this is basically a soft-ish, kind of ball-ish form. So I know it should be a ball. So I just render the ball or shade the ball, communicate the ball. We can all communicate a ball, it's easy. And then this transitions into sort of a giant boxy, eggy thing. So I don't know how to describe it. It's basically a cylinder-ish thing, which is the thigh. The thigh is a cylinder-ish thing, which has eggy elements, so that's what makes it hard. These are more thigh forms, but I just wanted to include them here because transition is really cool, really interesting, really nice. I'm going to switch back to pencil here. So this is core shadow of the thigh. Gets a little bit harder here, so I can reinforce it. So now what's happening here is that we have the lean part of the, well, not necessarily lean, but this form is being kind of stretched a little bit and compressed. So it's creating like a small, squishy kind of compression muscle fat and skin tissue, which is creating a bit of a firmer core shadow. So that's looking great. Okay, so the hip feels pretty good. Let me just do the arm here and then we'll call it a day, the upper arm. I just thought arm looks nice. I thought it'd be nice to give it a little bit of love. It's very fun. You know, rendering is fun, guys. I know I talk all the time about, oh, don't copy. Oh, oh, be careful with details, all this stuff. But, you know, I'm just like you. I'm an artist like you. Rendering is very fun. I know, I know, I know. That's why it's that's why it's good to have someone like me to remind you that, hey, you know, just because it's fun doesn't mean you turn off your brain. You know what I'm saying? You gotta think. You gotta think. You gotta think while you do these things. That's why we do these things. So again, the arm is basically a cylinder. This is kind of an eggy, kind of soft box. It's a box with a soft corner. This is the deltoid muscle. So that's muscle, but on a female model, on a woman's typically not as sharp, it's obvious, it's firm. So of course we keep it soft. It's a beautiful highlight right there. There's the underplane of the thing, of the rib, scapula, spine of the scapula. Beautiful halftones here, and we're pretty much done right here. We're pretty much done. I just want to put that halftone there so it feels a bit more natural. I'm not going to render the arm, but I just wanted to suggest a little bit and show you the completeness, because right now this feels really good. I'm going to take a step back now. I'm going to take a step back now and evaluate my values. But overall, I think the thing is really solid. So let's do one more pass. I went through and I cleaned up the arm and cleaned up some little bit of some value here and on the hips, added some dark accents. But this is pretty much complete. We got the forms we need, right? The egg is reading. The cylinder thing of the shoulder girdle is reading. The boxiness of the shoulder itself is reading. The cylinder of this is reading. The cylinder of the leg. The donut. You see how beautiful that is? And see the transition? Transition from egg into a beautiful donut. You see that beautiful transition? It's reading. And then the transition from that beautiful donut into the boxy hip, into the ball-ish thing, of the leg, and the thing, and the thing, the thing. But you see, major forms and their transitions, and we have detail. So that's the game, my friends. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, make sure to sign up for my free email newsletter. And there I write regularly about pro tips to help you in your career. You want to improve your skills so you can pay some bills, so you can work in entertainment, so you can you can build a career, or you can be the best hobbyist in your neighborhood and have bragging rights. But either way, look me up, www.drawwithchris.com, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.